Okay. Matt, I've just lost you on my screen, but I know you're here. Do you want to give us a little introduction about what you do and what you focus on with Nodes?
Yeah, totally. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all, and very much looking forward to hearing your pitching. The kind of quick TLDR on me and on Nodes. So I started life as a software founder back in 2015. We raised some capital from that company, scaled it over 2.5 years, and we sold it to one of our largest users at the time, back in 2017. After that experience, I thought my investors were rock stars. So I've been taking a dual track approach to my career over the past 7, 8 years. I jumped into working for Scale-Up. So I've been working in fintech for the last 7 years. I currently have a day job at Stripe, where I'm looking after a lot of our product operations and marketing for startups globally. But at the same time, I started investing back in 2017, thought my investors were rock stars. And as soon as we sold the company, I thought, hey, I'd love to be like you guys. Can I just follow suit and invest in what you're investing in? After a trial and error period, it kind of became quickly apparent that in investing world, the more data you have and the better your ability to refactor it, the better your decision making is. And I think that's true for pretty much anything, but particularly true for angel investing. So we started to grow our community and invest with more people. And it very much went downhill because investors, whether they're an institution or an individual, are very opinionated. And when you put them in a room and ask them to agree on those opinions and commit to doing something, it's pretty difficult. So we set up Nodes Ventures 3 years ago, and that is a syndicate of former founders, current founders, and people working in Series A and above companies. And it's really just a brand and a set of operating principles and a process that attempt to codify how we exchange information and look at startups, and then ultimately how we invest. So we've been around for 3 years this month. We've invested in 25 companies as of last night. We tend to do pre-seed and seed is our kind of sweet spot. We've done some Series A, largely over the 2021 period, and there were some lessons learned there. But we like to do pre-seed and seed, and we'll invest in anything. We're firm believers that this is certainly a people's business at this stage. So we look for founders that are sensible, smart, and passionate about what they're doing. And we back them at the earliest stages, ideally first round or second round. We can do so with a lead or without a lead. And really, we like to be a part of the journey. And then we try and leverage the collective experiences of everyone in the group that ranges from hardware founders to software operators to marketers to product people to engineering leads. And we try and tag in the people at the right time within your journeys to be useful to the stage you're on.
Brilliant. I'm really curious to know, actually, going back to your company, you said you thought that your investors were rock stars. We so often hear founders say different opinions on their investors, but I'd love to know, like, what made you think that, and what are things that founders can do, or like, how were you able to tell that they would be great investors before you took their money? What can founders learn from that?
Yeah, worth mentioning that my perspective has changed on the investors in general. The deeper I've gone into this space, the more I've realized, hey, they're not rock stars. They're just good at certain things, but flawed in many, many others. So at the time, there were 3 individuals that I'm referring to as rock stars, and they had built companies themselves, and they were very, very hands-on. And they were the people that I'd call at 7 p.m. at night when I wanted to cry and I'd had a bad day, and they'd be like, hey, look, it's going to be fine. So they had just been through what I'd been through and could rely on their experiences to bring me confidence when I wasn't feeling great about certain things. That's why I thought they were rock stars, but more so on the surface that they made an entire job of deploying capital into interesting companies, speaking with interesting founders all the time. And you just see the headlines of how fun that looks. So it was maybe more, observing through a glass window that they were rock stars.
Makes sense. So for founders who are interested in pitching Nodes, like, what are things that you guys look for in the pitch? What's the best way to contact you? But also, like, in general, how do you suggest founders get in touch with syndicates?
Yeah, it's a great question. And every syndicate is different. So there's not really a blueprint of, hey, follow this process and you'll have success with syndicates, because the way I describe it internally is investing at the angel level is like fashion. If you say, Matt, show me your portfolio, it says something about how I see the world around me. And that's a very personal thing. So everyone has different preferences. Every syndicate is also slightly different. I'd say the kind of basic rules are share as much information up front, because you're going to access one person that could be the syndicate lead. And whoever your entry point is, their objective is to share as much information with the group as possible to get everyone from curiosity to conviction. So the more you can make their job easier by sending Loom videos, memos, reading material, decks, like anything that you think helps me tell the right story to everyone within Nodes, the better. But some personal preferences for me, I prefer long form writing versus decks. I hate decks. I love to get like a Notion memo that just breaks down quite concisely in a one page what's going on. Any adjacent reading material, articles that help you get conviction, or maybe some you've written yourself, I'd love to read those as well. But I know lots of investors have different opinions about that. I also love a Loom video, very much same format as this. Ping me a 3-minute video, just introducing yourself, explaining what you're doing, kind of giving the TLDR on the product or the focus on the market. And if you do that, I'm probably going to respond. You can reach me on Matthew@nodes.ventures. Email is probably the best forum. On LinkedIn, if you ping me already, I'm sorry, I very rarely respond to anything on there.
Founders, curious to know how many of you guys have sent Loom videos to investors. If any of you are considering doing it or have done it, raise your hand. Matt, what's the line that founders should avoid crossing between being like, okay, they're clearly showing interest in the syndicate, maybe they're in contact with 1 or 2 members of the syndicate, they're sending their pitch deck, they're sending their Loom video. Do you ever have founders who then try to contact like all 60 of the people in the syndicate, or to the point where like they get annoying? Like, I guess, what's the line between annoying and persistent?
It of course does happen, particularly if people within Nodes or other syndicates indicate on LinkedIn that they're part of that syndicate, much like running your sales process, where you're going to be doing outbound to a bunch of people in an organization and multi-threading. There's probably, same tactics apply here, in that be careful about who you think you're approaching and intentional about why you're approaching them. Spot a member on LinkedIn and maybe you have a connection. Maybe you worked in the same industry. Maybe they've written something that resonates with you. You kind of still have to have that foundational, hey, I've come to you 3 for these reasons, rather than a spray and pray approach. Because I think I've said this a ton at like hotbed events. Finding your institutional investor is like finding a hookup, like it's transactional, but finding an angel investor is like finding a romantic relationship. Like there, you might still shop around, yes, but you're doing it with intention. So yeah, I'm not sure if there is like a clear line between what is like sensible and what is annoying, but ultimately, if one of our members responds to your message, they're going to send it direct to me straight away. So I don't think it's clear cut, but just do it with intentionality.
I think from a founder perspective, one of the things that can be intimidating about pitching a syndicate is you're not as aware of like everything that's going on behind the scenes. So if you're pitching a typical VC fund and okay, they use like these 3 or 4 steps for their decision-making process. These are the people I've stalked on LinkedIn who will probably be involved in the decision-making. Okay, I speak with the associate, then I speak with partner, and then I'm speaking with their entire, investment committee. That's more clear. But with the syndicate, maybe you're pitching a few members of the syndicate after you've kind of got like a warm introduction, or you've been introduced via maybe one member who but then you don't know how many opinions are being shared about your pitch and your deck, and maybe you have all of a sudden like 40 different people with different backgrounds sharing their opinion on what you're doing. And if you're not privy to those conversations, it's like, how can you get ahead of the sort of questions that might come up that you might not be in the room to answer those questions? And so my hunch is like with the Loom video that you mentioned, the Notion documents, the FAQs, the data room, that's probably a founder's best bet to sort of control the narrative as much as they can. But is there anything else that founders should be aware of or have in mind during that process?
Yeah, I love that you think most VCs are very buttoned up in their process. Having joined like tons of ICs at big and small funds, I think the same dynamics exist in that whoever your point of contact is in fund, it could be partner, principal, associate, their objective is to go and pitch you to the rest of their team. They'll do that pre-IC, they'll do that at IC, and your role is still the same. Like make that associate look like a rock star. Like they know exactly what they're talking about. They're pitching the value prop of your company in the right way. They know the market, they know you. It's the same with a syndicate. And we adopt the same kind of model where at the beginning of a process, we allocate a deal captain. 9 times out of 10, that's me. 1 time out of 10, it's someone else in the group. And that person's responsibility is to kind of be the quarterback for this whole process. As is kind of quite structured, 2 weeks end to end. We have 2 calls in that. And the deal captain plays a very specific role with how they engage with the community. Not every syndicate is as buttoned up as that, but I'd say the relationship between how a fund is going to get from curiosity to conviction, how a syndicate is going to do that is pretty much the same. But the fund, they're all full time. And on a Monday, they're going to have their IC. On a Thursday, they're going to have their follow-up. With ours, it's semi-structured because everyone has a day job. They're building their own companies. They're working in scale-ups. They're working in big tech. So often our process has to be a little bit more fluid because someone just, shit's just hit the fan at their day job and they've got to fight that fire and we have to delay this for that reason. And they're going to call me at 9 p.m. at night rather than join the call at 10 in the morning. So as a little bit more unstructured and has to be a bit more flexible. But I'd say the relationships between how we get from curiosity to conviction at a fund and a syndicate are quite similar.
Okay. And very lastly, before we go into a pitch, there's a few sort of like hot topics, or like controversial topics, polarizing, I don't know, that I saw trending on Twitter and LinkedIn recently that I just wanted to run through that I think founders might be interested in hearing your feedback on. Number one is whether or not you like to see both founders in a pitch meeting, or whether or not you want to see one focus on business, one focus on pitching.
So having been in the pitches, I say your best fundraiser, if you're a co-founding team of two, should be taking all the calls. You need to divide the labor. You both can't be fundraising. It's a waste of time. One of you has to be running the business and doing everything else that keeps the light on. So take your best fundraiser. They can take all the initial calls. If you get to second, third call, IC, DD, yes, I want to meet the second founder. I want to know how you bounce off each other. But for the first call, the second call, when I'm building up my conviction on the space and roughly how you're thinking about it, I don't need to speak to both founders at that stage, but certainly later stages, yes.
Okay. I saw an angel investor, I think 2 nights ago, post that if they were ever on the fence to invest in a company, if they saw that the founder sent the FAQs in a Notion document, they wouldn't invest.
So the funny story behind this, Alex and I were back and forth on WhatsApp that night. And Alex hates Notion and we always argue about it. And one of our founders, Etienne, he's the founder of a company called Iona, is just raising his like 4 or 5 million seed. And we were debating back and forth between structuring it all in Google Docs or putting in Notion. I was Notion and Alex was Google Docs. Founder was Notion, and 2 of the other investors, which included Tom Savage from VT and Ben Waitley from Memrise, were just Notion as well. So I want to make that clear. But Alex did it just to, rile me up a little bit. But no, I love a Notion data room, but it also comes back to personal preferences. Investing is fashion, personal preferences matter.
Okay. And then lastly, what do you think about TAM slides? This has come up a lot in pretty much every single session we've done about how both founders and investors all kind of realize it's BS, but it's like a song and dance that we're all still kind of doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, if the TAM is intuitive, like we're building a product for sales teams at every company ever, yeah, I don't need to see a TAM slide. Like I can envision that that's a big market, fine. If the market you're building is quite complex, or the user type is complex, or you're building in a completely new market that doesn't exist and doesn't have sizing, I don't want to see the big TAM, SAM, SOM, circle, Venn diagram thing. What I really want to see is a bottoms up. I want to see that, hey, we really think the user profile that's going to resonate with our products and has a willingness to pay for it is this type of user. And we know that there are X types of users in this market, that market, and these markets. Like I really want to see the bottoms up approach rather than top down. And that can be a sentence, that can be one image, one infographic, like it can be quite short. But really for the kickoff, like if I can't intuitively figure out that this is a big market or has potential to be one, then I'm probably not a great investor. So I lean less into that. I'm people first, market second, product third in my approach. But if it's not intuitive, like spell it out for me by using bottoms up rather than top down. Chucking a 5 billion market size figure on a slide just doesn't do anything for me.
Okay, perfect. All right. So first up, we'll have Barak. Everyone, same format as usual, 3 minutes to pitch. Then we'll do a couple minutes for Q&A. I know we have a lot of people wanting to pitch, so I will be a little bit harsh about cutting you off after 3 minutes. Barak, so yeah, you're up, and then Phil will go to you next. All right, Barak, you are ready to go. Love it. All right, fire away.
Thank you, Em. Hello, Matt. Pleased to meet you. My name is Barak, and I'm the co-founder of CatJobs. CatJobs is a video-based recruitment platform dedicated to the hospitality industry globally. Together with my co-founder, Chris, we have about 30 years of relevant experiences in tech and hospitality. We're not first-time founders, and we set ourselves on a mission to solve hospitality hiring problems. We run restaurants and clubs in London and Istanbul and have experienced the problems firsthand. We've been to startups, exits, IPOs, failures, and funding rounds. In our journey, we have many trusted partners following our ideal. Paper CVs don't cut it when it comes to hospitality hiring. Employers in the industry are unhappy with the current solutions. Hospitality has diverse needs within the industry itself. So a waiter in a bar, a hotel, or a Michelin-star restaurant have different responsibilities, although it is the same role. We're solving these issues with video CVs in our unique pricing model. Candidates can showcase their skills and personalities, while employers can post jobs for free and pay to view the applicants. They are saving valuable time and resources, since hospitality outlets don't usually have large HR departments. There's a huge global market with 1.5 million outlets and close to 15 million hospitality workers across Europe and the MENA regions. Turnover rates are really high, and it's a growing industry. Our MVPs are out and about and working, and we currently have 10,000 users and 20% month-on-month growth. We're ready to hit 60,000 users by end of the year. We made more than 50 successful hires, and the feedbacks from both employees and employers have been great. We touched base to more than 250 employees already, and we just have made our first sales as well. We have a different approach to monetization, and job posting is free on CatJobs. We only get charged for our value proposition, which is watching the applicant videos. So we sell credit packages where employers can use those to view candidates and discover our talents. Our unit economics are very strong. In the meantime, we are growing our hospitality community by working with brand ambassadors, United Nations World Food Programme, community events, and our recently launched podcast where we chat to industry experts. We find ourselves in a niche area with a strong focus on community and a much different business model than our competitors. We're currently seeking 250,000 pre-seed eligible for SEIS to accelerate our growth and start adding to our product features. This is our forecast for the coming 3 years, and we'd love to share with you via email. CatJobs is the solution for today and the standard of tomorrow. Thank you.
2 minutes and 24 seconds. Beautiful. Love it. Okay, Matt, go for it.
Cool. Burak, thank you so much. Maybe I'll go meta comments and specific comments and balance between the two. Some quick meta comments just on the slides. They're very information dense. So I naturally found myself trying to read the slides whilst listening to you and trying to balance both of those. I'd often lose what you said or not read that thing. So if it's a short pitch like this, or it's kind of a first kickoff, I would encourage the slides to be a little bit more entertaining, less informative, and the information to come to you. Like, I really want to make your video big on my screen, and I want to watch you and engage with a person rather than try and track the slides. So quick meta comment there. Now, you've kind of covered the whole thing in this pitch, from here's the market to here's our solution to here's our traction to, everything in one go. I'd maybe even slim it right down, because I'd imagine at the pre-seed and seed level, the vast majority of investors you're going to speak with are probably agnostic in what they focus on. They might do software or something horizontal, but I imagine there's probably very few hospitality focused verticals. They probably exist. So for me, the more interesting components of this is actually the market problem, the pain, and can you economically quantify it? When you're like, look, here are our users, and like, here's what they're really, really struggling with. And it's a navigable process because of these reasons. And the downstream impact of that is these costs to their business, this frustration in the marketplace. And we think our solution is actually going to address them by doing A, B, and C. That to me is the bulk. Like your product traction, the financials, the market kind of comes later. And I'd go deeper into those on a second call or a third call. But to begin with, as someone that knows very, very little about this space, I really want to know how big and hairy the problem is, how valuable it is, and who's desperate for you to solve it. So I'd index more of the narrative around market problem and the economic size of that problem.
All right.
Thank you very much, Matt.
No, thank you.
Okay, Phil, you're up next.
Okay, hopefully mute off. And your 3 minutes starts now.
Do you want to pull up your pitch deck?
Can you see that?
No.
No, of course you can't. Okay, bear with me, quickly present. I was much quicker last time. Bear with me.
It's fine.
There we go.
While you're doing that, everyone, please remember to put feedback for everyone pitching in the chat. Even if it's just like a sentence or two, it makes a big difference.
Especially if you disagree with me. I'm keen to hear that.
Purdy, just really quickly, sorry. I can't see the chat, or my chat's disabled. Has anyone else got that? Sorry, I just wanted to mention.
Yeah,
that.
it's the same
That's
problem here. Yeah.
Weird. I can see it, but I am one of the hosts, so Purdy, do you know what's going on?
I just turned it back on.
Okay,
Like accidentally turned it off when I press screen share, which is why everybody could chat and then stop being able to chat, but it's now enabled again. Thanks for
Okay.
that.
Yeah, thanks for letting us know. Phil, we can see a like
Okay.
standard desktop
okay,
background.
that's great. We should hopefully now
There we go.
see my screen. Great. Hi, I am Phil. I'm a co-founder of Wishable, helping you get the gifts you want. Now, it's never easy to find the perfect gift. In fact, it's much easier to get it wrong than it is to get it right, which is why nearly half of us get a present we don't want every single Christmas. That's 60 million gifts, or £4 billion worth of gifts that are wasted every Christmas. And this data comes from Oxfam, who receive most of the gifts that we don't want at Christmas. And that's why we developed Wishable. And Wishable allows you to visit any website, take any product through our Chrome extension, and then save it to your account. Once you've got it saved in your account, you can share a link with anybody you like. And you can share this link through text, through WhatsApp, through email, anyhow you like. You can send it to anyone, and they can then look at your account. And once they've seen your account, they can choose something that's in their budget, something that they like, and they can buy it with just 2 clicks. It goes through Stripe, interestingly, Matt, and they can then buy it and have it delivered without even knowing the address. And this is our main part of competitive advantage. No other wish list allows you to buy it and send it without knowing it. And this allows us to capture the data, to capture all buyers' data, and also to have a much stronger commercial model. Our money comes through commission, through affiliate deals, markups on any product that we can get cheaper elsewhere, and a small markup on delivery. It also allows us to have a huge data play later on in the game when we start looking for advertisers. We did a beta test earlier. We had 100 users, roughly. Approximately 20% were active a lot through that time, making gift purchases of approximately £40 at roughly 10% margin on sales. Now, we have our tech partner already invested. We've spent 50 grand bootstrapping us to this position, and now we're looking to get money to run the operations for the next year or so and to grow. Growth obviously is essential with a network marketplace like this. Now, we have a lot of experience in marketing, and we would choose social media influencers across Meta, so Instagram and Facebook, and then choose the best performing content and boost it across other sites, our social media, across Google paid for. The team, the two co-founders, as I said, have a wealth of marketing experience. Our advisors, our CTO has helped us build this, and Yella is an expert in marketing affiliates. And between us, we believe that now is the time to go. Online gifting is rising exponentially. Our product recognition technology is absolutely spot on, and we want to go as soon as we can to prepare for this coming Christmas, which is, of course, a huge time period for us. This is a SOMSAM, but basically nobody wants the wrong gifts, and a lot of people have trouble finding them. So when you drill that down, it's approximately £6 billion worth of online gifting that we can help people with. Thank you.
3 minutes right on the dot. Beautiful. You guys are first 2 pitches are spot on today. It's great. Okay, Matt.
We learned from the masters there, May.
Phil, thank you so much. You presented really well, worth saying, and big +1 to all the comments saying the animations did bring it to life for me. So, and I'll caveat this for everyone. I don't have all the answers. I'm not a guru. I don't know everything, but I can give you my reactions, and you can decide if they are useful to you or not. Quick reactions, videos were great. The deck was clean. It was much simpler and easier to follow. Your narration over the top of it was also really good. So thank you. I think the competitive set is an interesting one and is always quite triggering when people use it, because when I view this, your biggest competitor is not the ones you've mentioned. It's the behaviors. It's the, I'm going to use an Excel sheet or a G sheet. I'm going to use my notes on my phone. It's this whole matrix of competition that you're dealing with versus the existing software solutions or players that are already in the space. So I'd be really curious. My initial response here is like, yeah, I might put it in a G sheet and I might send it to my family. Same kind of worse UX and worse UI, but same kind of outcome. So I'd be really curious to better understand how people are doing this already. So again, coming back to the market problem a bit more, also as a venture investor, when I try and look at opportunities that they don't need to have 100x, or we're not a fund, we're individuals, and the whole angel play is slightly different to what a fund might need to deal with. But when I look at this, I'm like, yep, the market you're dealing with is valuable. Some questions around that affiliate network and how you need to onboard those partners to actually build that as a business model. But secondarily, I'd love to hear a bit more about like what next? Like, is this a Linktree play where there's so much more around it, an accessory kind of value to be created? Because I feel like technically this doesn't seem on the surface the hardest thing to build. A lot of it will come down to the partnerships ecosystem you build in that affiliate space. So I'm curious about disintermediation and existing players, maybe like Linktree or someone else, getting involved in this space. So I'd love to hear like the bigger vision. Like, what do you want to do beyond this, if there is a bigger vision there, or if you're not looking to do that?
No, that's a great point. I'm not going in to answer that because I don't think this is the format for that. But would in a pitch deck, when you've got 3 minutes, so we've got 2 streams that follow on from this, which are much bigger vision than a simple transactional purchase. And I'd love to put those in, but I literally don't know how to put that in. It's virtually another 3 minutes in itself to talk about them, although that's where this takes off as a commercial business. It's very functional as a transactional business, but we have got much bigger vision. Do I put that in the pitch? Do I leave it out? Do I hope to get someone to bite?
Without trying to like undermine this whole exercise of a 3-minute pitch, but outside of this exercise, I never get a 3-minute pitch. If you email me
Okay.
or send me information and I say, yeah, let's chat, I'm going to give you half an hour. So honest answer, I don't know. I think you could extract some of the ending slides, particularly around like use of funds is interesting, but at the end of the day, you're all saying very similar things. We're raising 250 grand to hire a team and build the product. I think that's probably going to be pretty similar for 90% of you. I'd be more curious to see, you know, we're raising this round, but our ultimate ambition is to deliver these services and these products and this whole ecosystem. That future look to me is more important. So I do think there's maybe components you could swap out, but equally, if we were to chat, you'd probably have more than 3 minutes.
But it could just be substitute 30 seconds at the end to talk about the future vision.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, thank you. That's super helpful.
Phil, just on that note, we had a session with Gemma Anderson from Baldachin Capital. It's on YouTube, and she went over that for founders who like have a much larger long-term vision and are trying to figure out how to like weave it into the narrative of the deck, so it doesn't seem like you're like trying to do everything at once, and like the narrative makes sense. So I would check that out.
Sorry, what was her name? I missed that.
Gemma Anderson.
Thank you.
I think Cody's going to put it in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, well, Greta Anderson. I knew I was messing up that name. Okay, I was so happy this isn't going to go on YouTube.
Thanks.
Greta. Oh my gosh, that's bothering me. Okay. Anyway, James, you're up next. Also, can we please get some wonderful female founders who want to pitch today? It would be great to have you. Okay, James, you're up next.
Thanks very much. Can I be heard? Am I all functioning?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I was just checking. Matt, hi, really nice to meet you. I'm impressed that you're doing 2 jobs at the same time.
Yes, thank you.
That's a real thing. If nothing else comes of it, yeah, we've just shoved our whole platform onto Stripe, and it's brilliant how all that money works and your company makes it happen. I'm very, very appreciative of it. But by God, there've been some bumps in the road.
Tell me about it. I mean, if I can help as an aside, if there's anyone encounters Stripe problems, you need a backdoor.
Do you know what? Actually, it's actually been fixed now. But it genuinely, in terms of if you want to sort of exhibit a customer experience, I'd be very happy to share it.
Thank you.
If that's something else. Anyway, look, I'm burning up my precious 3 minutes. Let me just check that I can get this to you. Can everyone see that? Is that okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
Matt,
see
can you see it? Fantastic. Okay, Matt. I'm interested in sharing space, and specifically, we're interested in the opportunity of sharing physical spaces that are used some of the time, but not all of the time, because it's in that utilization gap that there's a business opportunity. And an example would be community halls, of which there are thousands all over the country, but it could also be leisure centres, it could also be your garage. I've done the numbers, and I get your point about not wanting to be blasted with Tims and Tams and Toms. Here is the data. I've worked it out. the market size is quite exciting, and I'm happy to be challenged or questioned on it at your leisure. How are we looking to take advantage of that? I've built a marketplace for sharing space, which makes it easy for someone who's got a space to share to put it on a market, and for someone who wants it to rent it from them. But the secret sauce is not the marketplace, because marketplaces are to a penny. The secret sauce is specific asset-specific functionality that provides, metaphorically, the key to opening up that space. What have we done about that? Our precious first client was the Hewitt Academy in Norwich, and we tested it with them, and they liked it so much that they're now rolling it out to all the schools in their trust. And so that is kind of where we're testing it and getting it working. And we're starting, their feedback has been that this has been a really good thing, but they've also given us lots of feedback of the things that we need to change. Finally, who are we? There's 4 of us. None of us have got big brand employer names on our CVs. But I personally, for the last 20 years, have set up a company that hires out school facilities, and we make millions of pounds for schools every year. So I bring that one sector knowledge, and it's inspired by that we try to create something that serves multiple sectors. We're looking to raise £250,000 to achieve the next stage of the build, which we're calling self-service. That's me.
Well done. Okay, feedback time.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Amazing. So here are my reactions. The model you're talking about is well-versed, the whole marketplace model. And I think the product is intuitive. So I think you're right in not spending too much time talking about marketplace functionality and the product itself. What I'd love to hear more of is use cases. You mentioned a couple of times about the types of places that would be spaces that would be on like leisure centers, community halls. I'd love to know who is booking them and why. That gives me an indication of frequency. Like, what is the use case for booking? I think the business model is also intuitive, so you don't need to cover it, but I really want to know, like, what is the frequency here? And my natural reaction to hearing about physically constrained marketplaces is, one, the whole venture ecosystem goes, oof, that's expensive and slow. Uber, for example, had to launch city by city, very capital intensive business to do that. And so my immediate reaction there is this is going to encounter the same things. Slow growth, because you're going to have to start with small local areas and build 2 sides of that marketplace. So you have demand to book and places to book. So I would love to, touch on that and hear a little bit more about the deployment model. Like, how are you going to expand this? You mentioned to begin with where you're starting, but I'd love to hear a bit more beyond that. But for me, just more use cases. Like, why are they booking these spaces? Is this recurring? Are they booking it for like football games, 5-a-sides, for like meetings? Like, what is the use case? Because then that intuitively tells me how you're going to build the demand side of the marketplace. So the individuals that are booking these spaces. And then the downstream thinking from that is, how are you going to get their attention? How are you going to win their custom? How are you going to get them on the platform? Is that a repeatable process? Is it community-led? Is it paid growth? Is it something else? So it kind of sparks all those subsidiary conversations that extend from use case. And you maybe telling the story more, because you mentioned, you don't have big loaders as a team, but I'm very curious, like, what brought you to this, what the pain was that you felt, like why you think you're the right people to do this. So expand on team a little bit more, and then really touch on use cases more, because all of my question sets would be downstream from use case.
And just so I've got the terminology right, use case means here's customer A. This is how they're responding to it. This is why it was useful for them, and this is how we make money from that. Is that what you mean by
Exactly.
use case?
Why are they booking it? We heard from tons of people that they were looking for spaces to hold these types of events, and they currently can't do that, or the process to do that is very fragmented and inefficient. So via our platform, we satisfy their need by doing X. And if you can repeat that 10 times, and those use cases are very coherent and valuable and hopefully recurring. So it's not just a one-off wedding. It's like, this thing is happening on a weekly basis, and they're going to use our platform for it. That's when I can get a bit more exciting. But as I say, that primes all of the downstream questions that I'd have on this business.
Smashing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, James. Okay, Ashley, you're up.
Hello. Give me just 1 sec.
Okay.
We had some slight technical difficulties just before the call, so. Cool. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
1 second. Give me 2 secs. Great. So hi everybody. My name's Ashley Lockwood. I'm the COO and co-founder of a startup called Oya Kitchens. We're a real estate marketplace for the food industry. So in 2024, being a food business is hard. Finding the right property is even harder. The majority of the specialist spaces that a food business needs to access are still listed on websites like Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace. Despite the growth of other marketplaces like Airbnb, Appear Here and Hubble, there's still no sector-specific marketplace for food services, and hospitality venues across the UK are under significant financial pressure and looking for new revenue streams. So we're on a mission to change all of that. We're a B2B marketplace that enables food businesses to search, view and book different types of spaces. We're creating new revenue streams for our landlords, and we provide three main services to the sector: a front-end marketplace, a legal framework in the middle, and booking management at the end, which allows us to generate MRR. This slide really showcases who we are as a business and the marketplace that we're building. On the left, you can see the different types of properties that list on the marketplace. On the right, you can see who our demand are and who our food businesses are. And in the middle, you can see the different types of rentals that we've had running through our marketplace to date. The business model, we have two different revenue models. On the left is very similar to Airbnb. We take 15% on the inside monthly from our landlords and 10% on top from our food businesses. On the right is where we're getting paid per introduction. We're acting as an online agent here. These are nice chunky deals. Usually it's around about 4,500 for the business if we close an introduced deal. The opportunity we think is pretty large. There's 425,000 properties in the UK that we think is addressable. The obtainable market to that is around about 89 million pounds in gross booking value. We are just in the UK at the moment, but we're looking to go worldwide. There's a 1.7 billion pound opportunity here if we're able to do so. We've generated over 1.8 million for our landlords today. I'm speaking to you today on the back of 3 record months. If we have one further deal closed this month, we're going to break the record again in May. We've partnered with some really great landlords across the hospitality sector. We've got test sites going with Green King Punch, the dark kitchen operators, and we're on a retained basis with some great food brands as well. In terms of competition, I'd highlight estate agents and classified ads as our main competition. Estate agents really generally favour longer term deals, and classified ads market, as I said at the start of the presentation, it's the Wild West. Yeah, we're on a mission to change that. It's a really strong founding team. My co-founder Mark has some really successful exits, and I've also started a number of e-commerce stores and have experience within fintech and prop tech. And a little bit about what we're doing and why we're raising. We're looking to raise 300k. We have 150k committed from our previous investors, Founder and Lightning, with 150k remaining. That's going to be spent on building out the team, marketing our marketplace and product as well. Thank you very much for your time, and happy to take any questions.
Well done.
I ran over.
Not by that much, only like 20 seconds. Well, we can work with that.
I was trying to nail it within 3 minutes.
Awesome. Ashley, thank you. Yeah, super coherent end to end. I had some initial questions around coming back to use cases, which seems to be the theme of the day, but then your slide around your marketplace customers, like kind of brought that to life, and you showed me each of the different actors within this value chain. Would love to double click on that a little bit more. You know, we spoke with one user who had this problem and here was their use case. Like, bring it to life a little bit more for me, because I can kind of envision it, but as someone that isn't intimate with this space and doesn't understand the mechanics, I'd love an example. And coming back to that, economically quantifying it, like what are the issues right now? What are the existing processes they're using? Right on that competitive slide, you've touched on estate agents and these other actors involved. I'd love to better understand how they're currently finding these different venues for their different use cases and why that's a pain in the ass, expensive, problematic. So I'd love a little bit more color on the current issue in the market. That would be super useful for me just to get my head around it as someone that doesn't understand the space. So I think that could be even a couple of sentences when you're on that marketplace slide. Let's pick one. Let's look at dark kitchens. They're looking for this, and currently they have to use these estate agents or shop around on these platforms. But with our platform, it saves them X time, and they can go straight to us, and we can go straight to the solution. So I'd love a little bit more color on that. I'm also very curious about, there's some kind of counter positioning here. You describe it as a marketplace, which is true, but then you call it an estate agent. And those two build different mental models in my mind. Marketplace is like self-serve. Buyer and seller meet on the platform. The supply side, so those that have the venues, can list directly on your platform in a self-serve function. Everything's product-led growth. And then your objective is to attract the demand side, so those that want to access those spaces. As soon as you use like estate agent, I picture brokering. I picture like manual onboarding. I picture, non-scalability, because you're meeting these clients, assessing, doing surveys of their space, then onboarding like conventional estate agent. So I find those two positionings kind of counters one another. So I'd love, some massaging on that topic, just to explain how the platform functions. Those that have a space can list directly on our platform. They advertise in these ways. Maybe here's a screenshot of a listing. And then you could expand on that with the use case and how it would function. That would be incredibly useful for me. So actually, although, back to James's point, I said the marketplace is kind of intuitive, because you started using the word estate agent. I'm like, oh, well, maybe it's not a conventional marketplace model. So I'm very curious how that would function.
Yeah, good. Thanks for that feedback. That's really good. I think the reason why we tried to, we're basically, it's still a process of listing online, and we're not necessarily doing viewings, etc. But it's just, the idea was just to add some clarity around what the model looks like. As in the financial model, we just get paid once the deal's done. But maybe the word estate agent isn't the right terminology, and I think I can get my head around that.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd maybe encourage ditching it, to be honest. You know the space better than I, so this could be a left field view. But when I picture estate agent, I imagine services and not tech. And ultimately, in this space, like we want that spectrum to be closer to the tech end. It sings scalability, estate agent and services, or people behind estate agent. You're Flintstoning things. You've got to pick up the car and run. With tech, it'll drive itself. So I'd maybe even remove that terminology, because it makes the mental model clearer for me.
Yeah, cool.
All right, well done. Srinath, you're up, and we'll probably have time for one, maybe two more founders. So if you're keen to go, please raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just share my screen. Go. I think someone can actually just stop sharing so that I can share.
Ashley, can you exit out of screen share?
Yes, I can.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm just starting from the beginning. Yeah. Hello, everyone. This is Srinath. I'm founder of Ride Commerce. Imagine like inefficient routing in last mile is costing $30,000 per day as per Statista. I think I'll just go back. So increase in 10% of energy cost to the EV fleets is costing around $180 per day for companies like Zalando and DPD. And Zalando last year emitted around 2,000 metric tons of CO2 by using the diesel vans for their deliveries. And overall transportation pollution is costing around 24% of the pollution overall cost, which is impacting the climate. So we at Ride Commerce have developed an AI-powered routing solution, which would actually help companies like DPD to find the fastest router, fastest charge point for the EV fleets like DPD, and reduce the congestion. We also built an ESG dashboard, what you see on the screen here, which would actually measure the carbon emissions, and help DPD to set net zero targets per year for the net zero pledge. Our competitors are ChargeTrip, for example. Sorry, I think, yeah. If you look at our competitor landscape, ChargeStrip, GeoTab, and Loginest. They all provide the AI-powered solution, but do not provide the carbon credits what we offer by measuring the distance from A to B. We also actually have the sensor data to find the fastest charger, the congestion. Imagine like London cities having millions of cars running in 2030, finding the charge point without the congestion. So we do that. And we build data pipelines using AI so that it would be helpful for companies like Zalando and DPD to optimize their routes. We achieved a significant traction at Techstars Audi in Berlin last year, where we did a use case plugging to the e-trons for the charge points. And we also right now at Techstars Sustainability Paris program, where we actually achieved a significant traction by running the test pilots. So imagine like where we could actually build the ESG platform with 100 users in the first year, we could achieve 5 million the market, as you see on the screen here. So our team, myself is a founder CEO. I worked in logistics industry as well as technology consulting in companies like Ford, XPO Logistics, and Deutsche Bank. And my co-founder Kumada has worked in electronics, and she's a Salesforce developer running our dashboards engine. And we do have a data scientist. And our advisor is from the Ontario Vehicle Network, where we received a $50,000 grant, and a $1 million grant is available from the same consortium. Join us for a mission to create cleaner, smarter cities. Thank you.
3 minutes on the dot. Ugh, you guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Could you please pronounce your name for me before I butcher it? Is it Srinath?
Srinath, yes, Matt, yeah.
Srinath, awesome. Well, look, thank you so much. Yeah, tons of interesting things to dig into there. So again, as someone that doesn't know the space, positioning is really valuable. So the very first thing you say just needs to be a very simple contextual setting line. So I would maybe even have the words on the slide, but I'd say something like, we're building a solution to help large logistics players like DPD better manage their fleet, reducing carbon emissions and overall costs.
Yep.
If you start with a sentence like that, rather than all these details, I can go, okay, cool. So I know who the user is, DPD, large logistics, Zalando. I know what they're trying to do, reduce their costs, their emissions. It sets the whole context. And then you can go into the details of how you're going to do that and maybe why the timing is right. So yeah, I would, instead of swifting straight into, here's exactly what we're doing, it's like, help set the stage for me before we step on it. That would be super, super useful.
Sure.
I'm also curious. Sorry, go ahead. Do you have anything there?
Yeah, or could I relate to a persona, like maybe someone working as a driver in an EV fleet or a warehouse manager? Does that also affect the persona, like maybe like doing a storyline? Like imagine
Totally.
like a driver having a mission of 50 shipments, often struggles to find the routing as well, or I can directly straight to get to the point, as you said earlier.
Yeah, you know your business infinitely better than I am. So whether it's like the person using it and the value it brings to them, or the company level a bit broader, will default to your experiences on what you think is better. But I think, and someone's just mentioned it, yeah, this video and this slide to begin with, it's an assault on the senses. Keep it super simple, have your mission statement, hopefully include in that who the user is, just so I can paint the picture of, cool, they're doing X for Y. Let's go into why that's valuable. And next slide is all like timing, like why now? You did mention that they have these these green initiatives and these zero targets, like paint that picture a little bit more, like why now? Like they've been running these companies for a very long time. Why is this solution needed now? And why do they care about it now? So yeah, just easing me into this topic and the details would be very useful. The competitive slide you spent a little bit of time on, and I always, maybe a hot take, I don't really like competitive slides, because if you ask each of these competitors to build their own competitive slide, they could probably game it so that everything was green on them and everything was red on you. You can kind of cherry pick features and positioning to aid your own case. So instead of that kind of matrix, we do this, they don't do this, listing some of the logos, listing some of the existing solutions that people are using or behaviors they're exhibiting is more useful for me, rather just to set the context and who's around you. But equally, it jumpstarts my personal research in this space, because after this call, I'm going to go and Google a bunch of these competitors. I'm going to go see what's going on. So it helps me with my research.
Got it.
But yeah, that's mostly of me, is just positioning, slow it down, less details on the slides, make them simpler, maybe work on design a little bit as well, but really
Sure.
ease me into this topic with a positioning statement and then go into the details and timing.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, well done, Harry. You'll be our last pitch for the day.
Bear with me, I'm not going to do this. Aha, we can share the deck today. Hi there, how you doing? Let me
Doing
just
well.
put this full screen for you. Cool. So I'm Harry. I'm co-founder of Mobile Application Buddy, and we deal in something very simple, which is human connection. Since moving to London over the last 10 years, I have tried incredibly hard, but struggled to make friends simply to do my hobbies with. I have started a meetup group that grew to 1,000 members just to find someone to ride my motorbike with. I have put a letter through someone's letterbox because I saw that they had a mountain bike, and I have struck up conversations with people in photography shops. All of these worked, but it was a really inefficient way of trying to achieve something quite simple. Why did I struggle? Because things like Meetup are great for community building, but they're really not focused on one-to-one connection. Facebook is fantastic for shared knowledge and buying and selling, but it's not at all catered towards meeting one-to-one. And the other apps in the social discovery space, like Bumble BFF, are really based on dating brands, and users on the platform have nothing in common other than the fact that they are simply on the platform. So what we've created is the most simple solution from getting from not having someone to do your hobby with to being out in real life and doing what you love together. Users can create a profile. They choose from 200 plus hobbies. You set your search settings of age, distance, and gender. You can browse profiles, like and match, with the whole ethos of the company being to get out in real life to do the things that you love to do. We're live. We officially launched on the App Store in January. Since then, we have over 800 users. We're getting 10 to 15 signups a day. And I think most importantly, we've already seen a lot of success stories. We have people who have been to Cornwall on surfing weekends together. We have people who've been to Wales on hiking weekends. And we have people who've played multiple badminton tennis matches in London together. Social discovery is set to be about a $16 billion industry, and it's set to be twice that of the dating market. Now, social discovery is a forming wave, still in its infancy, but we are yet to define a clear leader in this space, and we believe that Buddy is the most logical solution to be that. The business model is primarily a monthly subscription, low enough that it's not prohibitive for most users, but high enough that it will foster engagement from the users that we have, and will create a thriving hub of people within Buddy doing the things that they love to do together. I am an expert in sort of product and user journey and UX, and Maddie, my co-founder, is a fantastic marketer and real expert in bringing a vision to life for consumers. We're now raising 400K SES approved to get us to 50,000 users and 100K MRR. Happy to take any questions.
All right, thanks, Harry. Matt, for feedback.
Thank you so much, Harry. I really enjoyed that. And I've just put a link into the chat, which I think you could steal a lot of that positioning. This guy has written about the loneliness epidemic in the US. And there's a lot of data and stats behind it. So I think you can enrich that, because I love your intro and that it's from a first-hand experience that you've had. I love the anecdotes as well. That, I mean, not good in origin, but they tell the picture very, very well. But I think if you can enrich that with some specific data around why this is becoming more of a problem and why in future it's going to increasingly become more of a problem, it adds more weight to that kind of positioning statement to begin with. But yeah, overall, really, really good. You talked through it nicely. It's very, very clear to me. One thing, and I think this might be relevant for everyone, because you hop straight into competition. Same statements there around what I mentioned to Shranit there. So whenever I think about competition, ask yourself this one question: what would my ideal customers be doing if my product didn't exist? Answer that and write it down. Just write it down in a few sentences. And that encourages you to think not only about the existing solutions out there, but the existing behaviors. As you mentioned, I posted a letter to my neighbor who has a motorbike. Like, map that out. Now, what would my customers be doing if my product didn't exist? Write it down in a few sentences, and then think about how you translate that sentence to a slide. And it will probably discourage you from building. It forces you to focus on the user and what would they do, rather than you focusing on your competitor and the features and product they have. Because for me, it's all about the user. It's like, why is this individual going to use your product? How are they satisfying this need so far? And how much do they care about satisfying this need? So that statement of what would your users be doing if your product didn't exist focuses on the user rather than the competition. And I think for me, that's much better phrasing around how you position this within the competitive environment, is focusing on the users and the existing behaviors, existing products. So yeah, that's the statement or question I'd ask to everyone. What would your users be doing if your product didn't exist? Both indirect and direct competition. That was my really only feedback. I actually thought it was really good. I'd be curious how the business model functions. I'd be curious if people end up paying for this solution to find friends. I imagine you could take some form of like Bumble, Hinge, like different feature gating, where those superior features have some form of premium. It could be an ads model. It could be something else. So I'd be curious to double click on that, but you don't necessarily need to get that through on a 3-minute pitch.
Well-
That's really helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I am the user, so I could go on for days about what the users are doing, solve this problem already. But no, I totally get the point. That's helpful. Thanks.
I
Awesome.
love that. If your product didn't exist, what would your founders be doing, and like mapping that out on a slide? I think that's really useful for everyone here. So we are at the top of the hour. So we already have Liam here for the next session. So we're gonna have to say goodbye to Matt. Matt, I know you're super busy, so really appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks for sharing your email in the chat. We'll share that in the follow-up email to everyone afterwards as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Not at all. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing your stories.
Hey.
See ya.
Perfect.